Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simply Smarter podcast. Our goal is to help families navigate some of the areas surrounding the college prep process, which includes providing college and ACT related advice, not just for students, but their families as well. This is my co-host, Caleb.
Listen each week to find out how students can score better on college placement tests, learning techniques and methods that build confidence, beat test anxiety, and identify strengths within each student.
Don't forget to stay in the know by subscribing to our podcast. Hello, and welcome back to the Simply Smarter podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about trends in college admissions. Buckle up.
Here we go. Are you ready for this? It's good to see you, actually.
I'm so ready. Yes. Yeah, I know. It'll be a fun topic to kind of cover. And of course, trends come and go. So
true.
Yeah, we've talked about trends before, but it's been a minute.
Yeah, and we've seen things happen and then all of a sudden reversed. And man, things are changing quickly lately.
Yep. So this will be good. It'll be good to kind of dive in and see what we've uncovered and talk about that and hopefully help some of these students and parents kind of get on the right track.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. What else is new?
Not a lot. Lots of work. Mm-hmm. Just working with a lot of students. There was a test this past weekend. Yeah. So it's always nice to have that finished or under your belt. Yeah. And some of the students were feeling pretty good about it. So
good.
That makes me a little excited.
They prepared.
So true.
So
scores won't be out until November 8th this time.
It's a little bit longer this time, right?
There are two test dates that take about 2.5 weeks for the first results to be released, and October is one of them.
Okay. And the other?
You had to ask. I'm pretty sure it's April.
That's what I was thinking, actually.
I'm pretty sure it's April. I'm far enough removed. I'm 6 months removed from April either direction that I haven't thought about it as much.
Come on, you knew I was going to ask.
I knew it was coming.
Okay, so just watch for that. If you're expecting it to be, 10 days later, it's going to be a little bit longer.
Yeah, 17. Or longer. Again, actually, this happened to one of my September students. Her scores weren't released in the first batch with most students.
Oh.
But it's 75% are released on the first day. Don't freak out if you are not in that one. You'll probably get them the next week. And if you don't get them, then you'll get them the following week.
That would be so frustrating as a student, though.
I get it.
I'm not a patient person.
They do give that 2 to 8 week window.
Oh, 8 weeks? I would just cringe.
That would be the worst.
Ugh.
So anyway.
Yeah. Yikes. All right. Yeah, it's fall is here. So that's been kind of nice. Weather's changing. It sometimes it's still 80 degrees, and you're like, "Whoa, this is a nice little day we have here."
I know. I'm looking out the window. And I see some beautiful red trees, and it's great. I love this time of year, actually.
Yeah. It's nice. I like this time of year, although the impending, bitter cold,
don't think about it.
High wind, snow, blizzard type of weather is coming.
Until just now, I'd effectively blocked it from my brain.
I know.
But now I'm thinking winter.
No, think about it. Just kidding. Well, really, you have to get through December here in Kansas. I mean, December doesn't get...
It's not too bad.
Bitterly cold. It's January, February that you really have to watch out for.
The end of December. I feel like we've had a lot of really, really, really cold New Year's.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
At least in my brain.
Anyway, we'll enjoy this 55,
62
50
today or something. I don't know.
It's great. Perfect fall day.
I'm bad at paying attention to the weather. Just gonna throw that out there.
Well, let's dive in. We're going to be talking about the effects of COVID and learning from the ACT prep perspective and kind of what our students are feeling and how that's affected college admissions and some of those details.
And I think it's kind of important to put into perspective. We've been with COVID in the world since roughly November, December of 2019, i.e. COVID-19, right?
Right.
In the U.S. since January at the very earliest, somewhere in that range of 2020. Now I think we're kind of, again, some people say the pandemic's over, maybe it's endemic, maybe we're getting close, right? But I think we're really seeing the effects of kind of how we handled COVID, especially when it comes to education. Mm-hmm. And it kind of hurts my heart a little bit.
It does,
thinking about it and working with students on a day in, day out basis. And there's just been some big shifts.
Yeah. It still has that trickle down effect.
Oh, for sure.
It's almost like supply chain demand. Like they're still experiencing delays in so many different things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of happened to our students as well. They're still playing catch up.
Oh, 100%. And I hope that they can catch up, but it's not unlike the supply chain. Like, oh, I'm just going to put off buying this thing for a year. Unfortunately, that doesn't really work with education.
No,
It's
no, it doesn't.
really, really, really tough to catch up once you're really far behind.
Yeah.
And that's the part that makes me really sad.
And that's not even just, for high schoolers that we're helping. It's all the way from kindergarten to middle school.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yep, absolutely. One of the things that I've been noticing even more this fall than any of the years previous, and I'm kind of surprised by that, but just the effects of COVID and the stress and the uncomfortableness that students are feeling from being back in school full time and the demands being back to like pre-COVID expectations. And then you throw in a test and they're kind of just, I'm just seeing a lot
Not
more
confident.
anxiety and a lot less confidence than I was seeing pre-pandemic.
That's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, this really is the first year that's been pretty normal. Everything is normal. You don't have to wear masks. There's field trips. There's, everything is
Sports
back.
are back on the table.
Yeah. All the things. So it has a huge effect on mental health and test anxiety and just the overall stress levels.
For sure.
Oh.
Yeah, anything we can do to help support our students with mental health things. Again, from our perspective, a lot of students for the last couple decades have come in and said, hey, I have test anxiety. And I definitely think that they're experiencing anxiety. Some anxiety isn't really actually that bad for a big event like testing or the big game or whatever else.
And that's natural.
If you weren't nervous, that's a little weird, actually.
Yeah, true.
And that can actually be used to our advantage. It kind of raises our alertness and whatnot. But we're seeing a lot more of the severe anxiety where it's actively affecting the testing experience in a very negative way.
Yeah.
And again, we've kind of had to kind of look at some new ways to help students manage that beyond just like, hey, learn these strategies, employ them, practice them, do your absolute best. I've even seen a drop off in students completing homework over the last several months
because it's just too overwhelming with everything.
Yeah.
On top of that,
I think it's the same load as what was pre-pandemic, but we just got into this groove of just something different. Expectations were a little bit lower. Maybe there was a little bit less homework, things like that.
Right.
And now we're seeing a big jump in everything. And I think the way that I think it's just tough for an adolescent in particular to manage that. I think it's tough for anybody. But
agreed, 100%. Yeah. But and one thing that really does help is preparing, right? Like maybe not over preparing, but just, we see students that want, 2 or 3 sessions. Well, that's going to help you a little bit, but an overall 8-week session, you have enough time. You don't have to rush. You can really be thorough with every subject and all the strategies. And for me, preparing is key.
Yep.
And not feeling rushed.
Absolutely.
So the longer out you can kind of look at your calendar and decide what's best for you, the more it's going to help your overall stress level, I think.
Yeah, for sure. If we can create good habits once they walk into the test day, they may still have those nerves, they may still feel anxious, but they're going to have some new tools to use from testing. But also, like, again, we're working with some of our students on some other kind of biofeedback, like resets in the middle of the test when they are a little bit panicked.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's interesting. I love that. And average scores in general are just lower.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
they're the lowest that they've been since 30 years, early 90s. They've dropped to 19.8 for an average ACT score.
Yeah. And that's been, it's been a pretty precipitous fall since COVID started. I mean, we were right around that 21, a little bit over 21 mark in 2018, 2019. And I keep it's just my optimistic side, but I kept expecting it to kind of shoot back up now that we're kind of getting back to school and feeling more comfortable. But again, all these things have just been compounding. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if it drops again next year.
Really?
Honestly. I think that, again, students are back in school and they're learning, but there's so many gaps in what they missed over those 2.5 years.
Yeah.
That so much is cumulative, right? Like, especially in math. Think about math.
Yes.
If you don't understand algebra 1, how are you going to do in algebra 2?
Right.
Not well.
Not good.
Not well at all. Right? So I think students just need that extra support, extra time with going in and asking questions with a teacher.
Yeah.
Slow and steady burn. YouTube videos. I don't know. There's all sorts of different things out there that can maybe just help them get back up to speed even a little bit.
Well, I'm sure if you went in and asked your teacher's not going to say, "Oh, sorry, I have nothing for you." I mean, clearly,
right.
If they say that, they're in the wrong business.
And actually, most of the time, and again, I've seen some studies on this, like when you go in and ask a teacher or a professor, like, "Hey, I need some help with this," like, and you build that personal relationship, you're naturally just going to get a higher grade because they're going to care even more because you care.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and again, you're going to get help. So that's probably impacting it. But also just like they're going to go out of their way even more at that point.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Totally. Let's talk about those content gaps a little bit, specifically in reading and math.
Oh, man.
Yikes.
You've seen the report. I feel like everybody's talking about this, right?
Yes.
The nation's report card.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, man. So the National Association of Educational Professionals came out and released their annual report. And this data is just wild.
Yeah.
Right. So do you tell us a little bit about what was actually going on in the study?
Yeah. So scores for math are the worst that they've been in a long time for specifically 8th graders. They are at 38%, which is below a basic level, which is not great. It's the worst since 2019. Where 31% scored below the 8th grade level. So dropped 7%, which is high.
Yeah.
1 to 2% would be concerning. 10%, a drop of 10%, or an increase of 10% would be a whole grade level.
Wow.
So we're closer to that decrease of a whole grade level.
Wow.
Which is really concerning.
That's unbelievable. But again, also believable, right? Like knowing what's happened in the world and in schools over the last 2 years. Wow. And then they also were testing 4th graders, right?
Yes.
So what was the big one there?
Same similarities. I mean, they tested hundreds of thousands of these 4th and 8th graders, and still significant drops. And not to say that they're not hopeful that those will come back up. It's just we have to continue to be doing these active things like summer school, after school programs. Like those are okay. Yeah, sure. Those are not a bad thing. I think they used to be this like, oh, we have to go to summer school because we failed this or we're horrible in this. But
you sounded like a mom right now.
I know. But it is what it is. Like you are, you have to actively you have to be proactive about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And again, seeing 3 to 5% declines in reading for 4th graders, like, it hurts my heart.
I know.
I really wish, if nothing else, students should have been like strongly encouraged to be reading because that's something that doesn't take a whole lot of energy.
Right.
And again, maybe students who are lower income or don't have as many opportunities. Again, maybe there's some kind of partnership with libraries where there's deliveries, or I don't know what that looks like. Right. But even I'm talking about in the past, but why not now? Let's get these kids back in gear.
Yeah. I mean, clearly there's still a gap.
Right.
There's still a gap. It's still there. Currently still there.
And you hear a lot of students say that they don't like reading, and it's not all of those students saying it, but oftentimes it's students who have more challenges reading who say that they don't like reading.
Right.
So if we can build those skills at that younger age and keep them where they need to be, I think we're just going to, in general, each individual is going to be better off, but also as a society, because this is all going to impact the economy and jobs and employment and all that down the road too.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Again, that trickle down effect.
Right. Fun.
So much. Goodness.
And you can find a lot of this information that we're going to be talking about in the Trends in College Pricing 2022 report, or you could, again, go back and access the nation's report card and kind of pour over that a little bit, because we encourage you to be informed and understand the process a little bit better.
Well, and look at the stats. I mean, the stats are right there. So it's easy to look at those and kind of figure those out in your own brain. I'm more of a visual person.
That's
so when I hear it, I'm like, oh, wow, that's a lot. But when you actually see that stat on paper, and I don't know, it sticks with you a little bit more, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's talk about sticker prices for colleges.
You know what? I was kind of surprised by some of this.
Yeah.
More so the increase rates compared to the actual costs, because I guess I'm not surprised by that anymore.
Okay. So this is for full-time students. A public 4-year in-state is about $11,000.
Yeah, and $10,950, and this is for like tuition and fees, right? This doesn't include room and board or anything like that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
But this is the part that I think is interesting. And again, not accounting for inflation, of course, but it was only a 1.8% increase.
Not huge.
So at least colleges are like recognizing, because back in the day, a 8% increase was not off the board at most universities.
Right.
So seeing that the average is 1.8 for in-state tuitions, I'm glad that it's not higher.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Same. The students are too, and their parents.
Yeah, for sure.
Public 4-year out of state is $28,240. So comparatively 2.2% higher.
Yeah.
So a little bit higher.
Yeah. And almost 3 times the annual cost, right? Room and board will generally be about the same from an out-of-state to in-state perspective.
Sure.
But it's that tuition that they really gear up for those out-of-staters. So keep that in mind. Again, there are some schools that will help offset a lot of that cost. If you have certain ACT scores or certain GPA, things like that. Like the University of Arkansas has done a great job for students in the neighboring states like Kansas and Missouri.
Yep. Where
they will, again, you hit certain benchmarks and they're going to cut off 70% of that out-of-state tuition.
Yeah.
Or 80 or 90%.
My neighbor just got into Arkansas.
No way.
So she's super excited. She announced last weekend. So
I can't believe she's a senior.
Yeah. I know.
That. I know. She's still so pretty young from when I
know, right?
Man.
Right? So yeah, she's excited.
That's
she's
cool.
Excited. But yeah, again, she's out of state but got the in-state tuition.
That's
so
big.
Yeah, it is. It's huge. It's huge.
The other one is community college. Sometimes we don't talk about that much around here just because we focus primarily on helping students get into 4-year schools or graduate programs. But this is interesting. Nationwide, the average for students who live within the zone or the district or the region or county or whatever it may be,
Sure.
The total cost is $3,860.
A little bit less than
and usually there's not room and board, right?
True.
Oftentimes you're living at home. So you're talking under $4,000 for a year, which again, it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
Now, I worked in higher ed and in enrollment, and I actually worked with transfers for a few years. And I want to caution some of you out there to be kind of look big picture rather than short term, especially with inflation concerns and talks of recession and things like that. I remember back in 2007, 2008, 2009, JUCO here in the area, Johnson County Community College, blew up.
Yeah.
They had such huge enrollment because people were going back and retooling, but it was also about like, hey, how can I save some money?
Yeah, of course.
Which is great. But be aware that oftentimes the much larger scholarships for academics are awarded to students from freshman year, not as transfer students. So think about that big picture, like a 4 or 5 year plan, because oftentimes students who start with community college end up going longer than students who start at a 4-year university.
Yep.
So you're extending another semester or two of expenses at the 4-year university, and now maybe I have a $1,000 scholarship per year instead of a $5,000 or $8,000 scholarship or whatever it may be.
Which is basically a year.
Right.
For JUCO.
So
yeah,
keep those little things in mind. I don't want you to. I want to make sure that you're making the best decision for your family. And I've just worked in that world, and sometimes it works out great.
Yep.
And sometimes, man, they would have actually saved a lot of money had they just started with a 4-year school.
And we're here to help you. So if you need a little bit more of that guidance and a different perspective, we would love to be able to help you and kind of figure out what some of those goals are.
For sure. And then the other one that a lot of our students, many of our students are interested in are our nonprofit, right? Our private
the private 4-year schools, yes.
And what's that total cost?
$39,400.
Wow. So the state schools, again, we're going up about 1.8% or 2.2 for out of state.
This is the biggest jump.
Yeah, private is still going up 3.5% over the last year.
Yeah.
And again, on a larger number, that's almost it's pushing $1,500 more per year. So that's something to be aware of. That's, again, I think that's a normal trend, especially during a financial environment like we're in right now. So be aware of some of those numbers and how they could affect you down the long run, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Because by year 4, that number could be drastically different than what it looks like right now.
And then you're just tacking on that price tag.
You're adding $1,500 extra a year. Oh, that's an extra $4,500 over the next 3.
Right. I mean, overall, for sure. And one price doesn't fit all, right? So it's different across the nation.
Yeah.
Wildly different, actually. This was
different.
Very interesting to me. So across the United States, average of the 2022 and 2023 public 2-year in district, so community college.
Right.
Tuition and fees range from about $1,400 in California, $2,000 in New Mexico, to $8,600 in Vermont.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference.
So weird, right?
Yeah.
It's fascinating. This is good data. I think it's really cool.
And then the average for a public 4-year in-state ranges from about $6,300 in Florida, similarly $6,400 in Wyoming.
Not surprised by those, just historically.
Right. Jumps to about $17,000 in New Hampshire and $17,600 in Vermont.
Wow.
What in
is
the
happening
world?
in northern New England?
That clam chowder, I tell ya.
You get up into the mountains and those prices go up with the altitude.
Right.
I guess that's what's happening there, right?
That's crazy. Those are huge jumps. So just,
it's interesting.
You may want to be in the New England area, but do your research.
And I think that there are some very, very good 4-year public schools up there, but there aren't ones that, at least in our area, that we would automatically think of, like the University of Vermont. We don't have a lot of students looking at something like that.
Right.
And out of state is going to be even more, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see those numbers, especially with some higher cost of living places nearby, like New York or Massachusetts or Connecticut.
Right.
You would think that those would be significantly more. But anyway, so we've talked about the gross price, right? The cost of attendance based upon the sticker price, right? But I think sometimes we fall short and forget to think about the net price.
Yeah, true.
And back in, I believe it was about 2009 or 2010, the Obama administration mandated that every college had include a net price calculator on their website.
Makes sense.
Now, some are great, most are really terrible, and they're so difficult to use. So
seems
be
like a good
in how
idea.
you're doing that. So I would encourage you to kind of think through it for yourself for the schools that are most important for you. But again, you may see a school where the sticker price, again, we talked about the private, way more expensive, but maybe they offer a $12,000 scholarship.
Right.
Now it's much more in line with an out-of-state university, right?
Yeah.
So kind of keep those things in mind as you're going through, because sticker price doesn't really mean anything.
It's shocking at first, but
for sure.
dig in,
no
do
matter
your
where
homework.
you're looking, right?
Right.
When KU's over 20,
Right.
for tuition, room and board and fees, it's a pretty big number for an in-state school. But dig into the numbers, figure out exactly what scholarships you're going to receive, what aid, what grants, all that good stuff.
Yeah, makes sense. That's good advice. Good advice.
I would also throw out there, most colleges, and this has been happening for quite a while, and even to qualify for any merit aid or anything else, and clearly for need-based aid, students and families are going to have to complete a FAFSA, the free application for student financial aid. And this is going to be something. And again, I'm not an accountant. Talk to your CPA or other better experts. But one little thing that I do know is that the more money that's in the student's name in their bank account, that money counts like 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I don't know the exact number, more against the expected family contribution, which is like the outcome from the FAFSA, than if it's in the parent's name.
What?
Because the parents, again, they have expenses.
That kind of seems unfair.
They have sibling, they have other children, they have a mortgage. If a student has the money in their bank account, oftentimes, like, what are the expenses? Like, okay, maybe a car payment, but...
Well, they're saving it for college.
Right. So they expect it to be spent on college. That's what's happening with the FAFSA.
Just keep it in a bag underneath your bed, behind your headboard.
Don't do that.
That's what my grandma did.
Did he?
Yeah,
That's
she
cool.
did. Yeah, my grandma.
Oh, your grandma. Okay,
yeah, it was
cool.
literally in a plastic sack.
I've had family members do that.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes they keep them in books, actually.
Oh, yeah.
But around the bed for some reason. I've had family members do that too.
I don't get it. Sometimes in the freezer.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Don't come to my house looking for money in the freezer. It's not there. It's literally just frozen chicken. Ice cream.
That's worth it. Ice cream.
True.
Maybe the frozen chicken, but definitely the ice cream.
Yeah.
I'm in.
So random. Well, that's interesting about the student having money in their account is dinged against them more so than the parents.
So. Yep. So that's something to keep in mind as you're going through the process. And applications should be open now for the FAFSA. Back in the day when we were going through, they didn't open until January.
Yep.
But they moved that forward into October, probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, so start now.
Yeah, jump in there, start that process, kind of play with the numbers a little bit, see what you can do. You're going to use your estimated 2022 income information. So it's not finalized even.
Right.
And actually, you may even be able to use your 2021 because that should be all
that would make sense.
Filed and everything. So make sure you have all that information handy. It's going to take a while. But take the time and be intentional about filling that out. Because if you're going to eke out an extra $1,000 or $2,000 in scholarships, whether it's need-based or whatever it may be, it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, for sure it will. Especially compound that over 4 years.
For sure.
Let's see. So between the fall of 2019 and 2020, total enrollment fell by 3%. 3%. I mean, not shocking, right?
No.
It's 631,000 students. 3%.
And I think that one is not that surprising and not that big of a decline, right?
Given the situation.
If you were a student who was graduating in 2020, you'd already gone through the entire process. You'd already committed to your college, probably. You've done all of that before you really knew what was going to happen with COVID.
Yeah.
So it did drop 3%, which hurt colleges quite a bit.
Of course.
And put them on the defensive quite a bit in a lot of ways. But I think that the larger declines in 2021 and then especially in 2021, I think really hurt universities and, again, caused them to make some decisions in the short term that I think they'll feel for quite a while again.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's talk about undergraduate enrollment, including full-time and part-time students, fell by 698,000, 4%.
Wow. That's kind of unbelievable. And what do you attribute that to? Do you think it's just COVID? Do you think it's finances? Do you think
it could be both, right? I mean, COVID definitely played a role, of course. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the world was in disarray. So even if you're just confused about what to do next, right? I mean, do you take a gap year?
Yeah.
A lot of students did.
I heard that during that time frame, but what did you do during that time? Because if you're taking a gap year, like, especially from a college perspective, but even from a personal perspective, you take a gap year to further
travel,
your life.
Right. And you can't do that.
Maybe save some money, get a job, just life experience, right? In some way, shape, or form. Well, everything was closed down.
Yeah.
So I think that could be some of it, but I think some of it is just that students really wanted an in-person, in the classroom. The experience of college. That is what most people remember.
Right.
I have a degree in chemistry. Ask me how much chemistry I remember. It's kind of sad how little. But if you ask me about friendships and fun and
Of course.
things that I got to do and experience.
Yep.
That's what it was, a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
The social component.
And those students were kind of robbed at the end of their senior year too. So
Yeah.
I can understand waiting a little bit to really have that all-in experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Kind of interesting. And then graduate enrollment did what, though?
Tick, 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 increased.
Yeah, kind of interesting, right? And this, I don't know. I think this is probably caused by people going back and retooling. They didn't know what else to do. They were bored at home anyway, so why not do some online programs?
Well, maybe just reevaluating their life. I think so many of us did that, or so many people did that. Like, what is going on with the world? What do I really want to do?
Yeah.
I have a second to think about it.
Sure.
And I've always wanted to do this, or I've always wanted to be that. And so now's the time to do that. So it was a good pause to kind of really reevaluate everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it.
No, I think you're exactly right. I think in times of recessions, we see enrollment go up quite a bit, especially in 2-year schools and in graduate. And again, COVID was, I don't know if it was technically a recession or if it was, I don't know what it was really economically, but it definitely got people to think.
Yeah, for sure.
And think about the future long term.
Except those 4th and 8th graders.
Yeah, they were not focused on school as much. Oh, those poor little kids.
Oh, man. Actually, I would be interested to see the stats when they are juniors and seniors and going into college and what it looks like.
Yeah.
You know, in 5 years and 8 years.
Do you think they will have caught up?
I sure hope so. I think by then, yes.
I think the 4th graders have a pretty good shot.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a little worried about those kids that were going through middle school. I think they're going to feel the effects of just the gaps in the content and just information in those last years and the social. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was an awkward middle schooler. And I think there are a number of those.
The most awkward time of your life.
And I think when you are, it's already an awkward social time period, and then you throw in COVID and everything social is weird.
Yeah.
I think that could affect things too.
Yeah.
Beyond just the academics.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, anyone needs help trying to figure out anything, where to go to college, what to do to play catch up. We are, again, here to help. So
absolutely.
We offer free practice tests for the ACT, SAT every Saturday morning. If you're wondering.
As well as if you're part of that increase in graduate school, LSAT and GRE.
Yeah.
GMAT.
Yeah. Start thinking about your future at 25.
Yeah.
35, whatever.
45.
45.
I've worked with 50-year-olds for the GRE.
Yeah, that's true. I remember that. Yeah, for sure. So it's never too late. So make sure you get in here, ask questions, and we're here for you.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. We'll
thanks,
see you
guys.
next week.
See ya.